It's time to be frank about the 1984 psychological experiment. Film, The NeverEnding Story, directed by Wolfgang Petersen. Now, if you're Gen X or an older millennial, you were probably subjected to this mind torture in your youth, maybe even multiple times, and you may have even loved it like I did. You definitely tried to hold back tears when Artax died in the Swamp of Sadness, and you probably never questioned what was actually being downloaded into your consciousness while you sat there traumatized eating your popcorn. See, this isn't just a kid's movie about imagination and believing in yourself. That's the surface reading the exoteric propaganda, if you will. But underneath, mate, this thing is absolutely drenched in Gnostic theology, mystery school symbolism, and some fairly sophisticated esoteric programming that your average 8-year-old brain wasn't equipped to filter. And that's the point, isn't it? Get them young, get them while they're impressionable, wrap it up in a fantasy adventure with a flying dog dragon and a horse that drowns in existential despair, and you've got yourself a perfect delivery system. So let's break this thing down properly, scene by scene, symbol by symbol. Because once you see it, you can't unsee it. And honestly, that's fine. We should know what was done to us. Not to get angry about it, but to deprogram ourselves and understand the role of entertainment in leading the past few generations away from Jesus Christ. If you want to understand the propaganda, symbols and hidden messaging in all the biggest Hollywood box office hits, subscribe right now, click like and hit the notification bell to make sure you never miss a video. The film begins with Bastian, a kid in the real world who's a bit of a loser, yeah? Bullied at school, lost his mum, can't connect with his dad who wants him to keep his head down and think about practical things. The real world, we're told, is grey and oppressive and meaningless. Then he finds this book, The NeverEnding Story, and he nicks it from a bookshop which, let's be honest, is our first little bit of transgression. The old man warns him off it, says it's not a safe book, but Bastian takes it anyway. Already we're being told the forbidden knowledge is worth pursuing, worth breaking the law for even. The authorities, whether it's your dad, your teacher, or the old bloke in the shop, they want to keep you away from the truth. You have to take things into your own hands, kids. Kids as in goats. Goats as in the dividing of the sheep and the goats. But I digress. This opening Gnostic framing, the material world, Bastian's reality, is a prison. The real truth, the real gnosis, is hidden in the secret knowledge, and accessing that knowledge requires you to break the rules. Now, Bastian hides in the school attic to read this book. He's literally ascending spatially, symbolically away from the mundane world below where kids are doing gym class and learning times tables. He's separating himself from the masses to pursue hidden wisdom. Tell me that's not a textbook mystery school initiation setup. So what is Fantasia? It's presented as a realm of imagination, dreams, and stories. It exists, we're told, because humans dream and imagine and tell stories. But here's the thing in Gnostic thought. The material world is the false reality, the demiurge's prison. The true reality, the pleroma, is the spiritual realm of pure consciousness and divine light. Fantasia is the pleroma. It's the true real world. And it's being destroyed. By what? The nothing. Now, the nothing is presented as this creeping void, this existential absence that's consuming Fantasia. It's not a monster you can fight. It's not evil in the traditional sense. It's just nothing. The absence of meaning, the void, entropy, nihilism made manifest. And what causes the nothing? We're told it's because humans have stopped dreaming, stopped imagining, stopped believing in stories. In other words, humanity has fallen into materialism. They've become trapped in the demiurge's prison and forgotten the spiritual realm. This is absolutely Gnostic cosmology dressed up as a kid's movie. The material world, Earth, the real world, is causing the spiritual realm, Fantasia, to die because humans have lost their divine spark, their connection to Gnosis. The film is explicitly telling children the mundane material world is killing the world of spirit and imagination. Your parents, your teachers, the real world, they're preparing you for that's the enemy, that's the nothing. And the only way to save Fantasia? Belief, imagination, subjective reality over objective reality, consciousness creating reality. This is New Age Hermeticism, as above, so below, mind over matter, reality as a construct of consciousness. It's also, let's be clear, the exact opposite of Christian theology. Christianity says there is an objective reality, an objective truth, and an objective God who exists whether you believe in him or not. The Gnostic worldview says reality is what you make it, truth is subjective, and you contain the divine spark within yourself, you just need to wake up to it. Here's where it gets properly weird, the childlike empress. She's the ruler of Fantasia, but she's dying. And Fantasia is dying because she's dying. She's literally the embodiment of the realm. When she weakens, the nothing spreads. This is the Gnostic Sophia, mate, the feminine divine wisdom who falls from the pleroma and whose suffering creates the material world. In Gnostic texts, Sophia's fall and subsequent restoration is central to the cosmology. She needs to be redeemed, to be given a new name, to be restored to her proper place. And who can save her? Not a warrior, not a king, not God himself, a child, an innocent, someone who hasn't been corrupted by the material world yet, someone who still has imagination, still has gnosis. That you kids, the audience watching on, you can be the saviour. You've got the power. The Empress is literally waiting to be saved by a human child giving her a new name. Naming, in occult and esoteric traditions, is an act of power. To name something is to have authority over it, to bring it into being, to define its reality. God names Adam, Adam names the animals. In Kabbalah, the names of God hold immense power. So this dying goddess needs a human child to rename her, and thus restore her, and by extension, restore the spiritual realm. The child becomes the saviour. The child becomes God. Tell me that's not Gnostic inversion. And I'll tell you otherwise. In Christianity, God saves man. Here, man saves the goddess. And not just any man, a child. The divine spark within us, unpolluted by the false teachings of the material world. Atreyu is the classic hero, yeah? Young warrior, sent on a quest to save the Empress. He's given the Oren, we'll get to that in a minute, and told to seek the Southern Oracle. But here's the thing, Atreyu doesn't succeed through strength or valour, or even traditional heroic virtue. He succeeds by enduring, by submitting, by nearly dying multiple times, and being saved by grace, or rather, by the will of Fantasia itself. His journey is an initiation. He faces symbolic deaths. Artak's drowning in the swamp of sadness. We'll come back to that because, seriously, this is dark crap. Nearly getting killed by Gamork, being obliterated by the nothing itself. Each time he's stripped down, humiliated, brought to the edge of annihilation. This is classic mystery school initiation. You must die to your old self to be reborn with gnosis. You must face the void, face meaninglessness, face your own dissolution, and come out the other side transformed. And Atreyu's ultimate realization, that he's just a character in a story, that the real hero is Bastian, the human child, reading the book. Atreyu is just a narrative construct of fiction designed to lead Bastian to gnosis. Again, reality is a story, fiction is truth. The material world is a construct. Consciousness creates reality. It's all Gnostic, mate, all of it. Consider the Oren, the medallion, two serpents eating each other's tails, forming a circle with an inscription, do what you wish. Let's start with the obvious, the Ouroboros. This is one of the oldest and most widespread symbols in occult and esoteric traditions. It represents eternity, cyclicality, the unity of opposites, destruction and creation as one process. It's in alchemy, Hermeticism, Gnosticism, you name it. This is ancient pagan religion right here. The Ouroboros is the symbol of self-sufficient divinity. It needs nothing outside itself. It creates and destroys itself in an endless cycle. In Gnostic and Hermetic thought, this represents the monad, the one, the divine source that contains all dualities within itself. So the Empress gives this symbol to Atreyu and tells him it will protect him, that it represents her power, and that all of Fantasia will recognize it and aid him. But here's the kicker, the inscription. Do what you wish. Now, any of you familiar with Aleister Crowley and Thelema will immediately recognize this. Crowley's central maxim, do what thou wilt, shall be the whole of the law. This is the core of his occult philosophy, that the enlightened individual should follow their true will, their divine purpose, unconstrained by conventional morality or external authority. The film sanitizes this a bit later. When Bastian abuses the Oren's power, we're warned that it's dangerous to wish without wisdom. But the fundamental message remains. The Oren grants you the power to reshape reality according to your will. You are the creator, your consciousness, your desire, your imagination, that's what's real. This is again the opposite of Christian teaching. Christianity says, "Thy will be done, submit to God's will, not your own." The Gnostic occult teaching says, "Do what thou wilt, you are divine, your will is supreme, reality bends to your desire." The Oren is a talisman of sovereignty, of self-deification. And notice what happens right after Atreyu uses the Oren's power in front of the Southern Oracle. Cut back to Bastian in the attic. And what's he doing? Taking a bite of an apple. The most obvious symbol in Western mythology, the fruit of knowledge, the forbidden thing that opens your eyes and makes you like God, knowing good and evil. They're not even trying to hide it, mate. The moment the talisman's power is demonstrated, the human child eats from the tree of knowledge. It's Genesis inverted, right there on screen. And it's given to a child. Crowley did like children, it is said, but that's a different horror story. Let's stick to this one for now. Alright, Artax, we need to talk about this one. This is the scene everyone remembers. Atreyu's beloved horse, Artax, gets stuck in the swamp of sadness, a place where, if you give in to despair, you sink and drown. Atreyu begs and screams and tries to pull him out, but Artax just gives up and sinks and dies. And we, as children, watched this. Traumatized, horrified, helpless. Now, why put this in a kid's movie? On the surface, sure, it's dramatic, it raises the stakes, it shows that the nothing is real and dangerous. But let's think about what this scene actually does to a child's psyche. First, it teaches learned helplessness. Atreyu, the hero, is completely powerless. He can't save his friend. No amount of willpower, strength, or love can stop Artax from sinking. And the message, sometimes you're just helpless, and those you love will die, and there's nothing you can do. Second, it associates sadness with death. The swamp kills you if you're sad. If you give in to despair, you're doomed. This is actually trauma conditioning. It teaches children to suppress negative emotions, to fear sadness, to view natural grief or melancholy as a fatal weakness. Third, and this is the kicker, Atreyu survives because he's wearing the Oren. He's protected by the Empress's talisman. The occult symbol of self-willed sovereignty is what saves him from the existential despair that kills his horse. The message, esoterically, conventional bonds, the horse, a symbol of natural, animal, lower existence, will fail you. Only gnosis, only the hidden knowledge, only the power of the talisman, the occult power will save you from meaninglessness. And let's be real, they didn't have to kill the horse. They could have had Atreyu lose him in any number of ways. But they chose drowning in sadness. They chose to traumatize an entire generation of children with this image. Trauma opens the mind, makes you suggestible, makes you malleable, mate. And right after this traumatic scene, what happens? Atreyu is saved by Falkor, the luck dragon, the magical, mystical, benevolent force that comes after you've been broken down by despair. It's almost textbook trauma-based conditioning. Break the psyche, then introduce the new paradigm while they're vulnerable. Now, Falkor. He's not a Western dragon, is he? Western dragons in Christian mythology are symbols of Satan, of chaos, of evil to be slain by saints. Think Street George and the dragon. The dragon is the enemy. But Falkor is an Eastern dragon, a benevolent, wise, mystical creature associated with luck, fate, and cosmic harmony. In Eastern traditions, dragons are divine beings, connected to spiritual enlightenment and the Tao. So we've got an explicit rejection of Christian symbolic language and an embrace of Eastern mysticism. The dragon is not evil, it's your savior. It's the force of benevolent fate, the universe conspiring to help you, the karmic flow of reality itself. Falkor represents luck, which is to say, the idea that reality is not governed by a personal sovereign God with a will and a plan, but by impersonal cosmic forces, synchronicities, probabilities. This is New Age mysticism, wrapped up in a cute, fluffy, flying dog dragon. And Falkor's role in the story? He saves Atreyu multiple times, not because of anything Atreyu does, but because of who Atreyu is, because he's on a spiritual quest, because he's aligned with the Empress, Sophia, because he's initiated. It's karmic salvation. It's Eastern mystical salvation. It's not grace from a personal God, it's the universe recognizing you as one of the enlightened and bending reality in your favor. Again, not Christian, not even close. The Southern Oracle sequence is about as blatant as it gets, honestly. Atreyu has to pass through two gates. The first is the Great Riddle Gate, two bare-breasted, lady-headed sphinxes who will incinerate you with their eyes, and distract your own eyes if you lack confidence. Not if you're wrong, mind you. If you lack confidence, if you doubt yourself. This is pure self-empowerment doctrine. Truth is irrelevant. What matters is your subjective certainty. Belief in yourself is what allows you to pass. Doubt, even justified doubt, is what kills you. The second gate is the magic mirror gate, which shows you your true self. And this destroys many who look into it, because they can't face what they really are. This is the Hermetic maxim, know thyself. It's the Gnostic principle of self-knowledge as salvation. You must confront your true nature, your shadow, your inner darkness, and integrate it. This is Jungian psychology. This is occult initiation. This is the gateless gate of Zen Buddhism, the barrier that only ceases to be a barrier when you realize there was never a barrier. And what does Atreyu see in the mirror? Himself? No, he sees Bastian. He sees the real human child whose imagination is creating him. This is the Gnostic revelation. You are not real. The world is not real. You are a dream being dreamed by the divine consciousness. And the path to salvation is to wake up, to realize you're the dreamer, not the dream. Atreyu passes through the gate and meets Engiwulk and Urgel, who send him onward to the Southern Oracle itself, who then tells him, basically, mate, you've done your part. The real quest belongs to the human child. You're just the initiator. He's the one who has to complete the work. The exoteric hero is just a catalyst for the esoteric hero, the human consciousness that must awaken to its own divinity. The nothing is a little hard to comprehend for the child mind, as so it has a physical agent, Gmork. Gmork explains the game to Atreyu. Fantasia is dying because humans have stopped believing in it. But even more than that, Gmork says people who have no hopes and dreams are easy to control. They don't ask questions. They don't resist. And here's where the film gets really interesting, because Gmork is basically explaining the plan. He says, explicitly, Fantasia has no boundaries. The spiritual realm is infinite. But in the real world, humans are turning Fantasia into lies. They're using the power of imagination, of stories, of dreams, but they're weaponizing it. They're using it to manipulate, to control, to enslave. This is exoteric propaganda acknowledging its own existence, mate. The film is telling you that stories are used to control people, and then it continues to be a story that's controlling you. It's a double bind. If you believe the film, you're being programmed by Gnostic esotericism. If you reject the film, you're just another hopeless, dreamless person who's easy to control. Either way, the system wins. Gmork himself is a fascinating figure. He's a creature of the nothing, but he still has form, still has will. He serves the void, but he's not the void itself. He's a nihilist, essentially. He believes in nothing, but he acts with purpose to spread that nothingness. This is modern atheism, isn't it? It claims to believe in nothing, no God, no transcendent meaning, no objective morality, but it's not actually nihilism. It's paganism, dressed up as rationalism. It serves the void while pretending to be neutral. It spreads despair while claiming to be enlightened. And what kills Gmork? Atreyu's desperation, his primal will to survive. Not heroism, not virtue, just raw, animal resistance. The Gnostic hero defeats the nihilist servant of the void through sheer assertion of self. So we get to the climax. Fantasia is almost entirely consumed by the nothing. The Empress is dying, and Atreyu, broken and defeated, can do nothing. The Empress looks directly at the camera at Bastian, at us, and tells him, Bastian, why don't you do what you dream? She's talking to the child, the human, the one with the real power. And then she explains the game. She needs him to give her a new name, and if he does, he can recreate Fantasia however he wishes. He can have anything he wants. He can reshape reality according to his imagination. Bastian, terrified, finally shouts out a name, his mother's name, Moonchild. Seriously, Bastian, was your mother a Satanist or something? Speaking of, Aleister Crowley wrote a novel called Moonchild about magical rituals to create a homunculus, a perfected human infused with divine consciousness. In occult symbolism, the moon represents the subconscious, the feminine divine, the receptive principle that reflects the light of the sun, masculine, conscious, active. A moonchild is an enlightened being, a perfected Gnostic adept, someone who has integrated the subconscious and conscious, the material and spiritual, into a unified divine self. Bastian names the Empress after his dead mother. Psychologically, he's integrating his grief, his loss, his trauma into a divine narrative. He's transforming his wound into gnosis. And what happens? Fantasia is reborn. But not as it was, as Bastian imagines it. He becomes the creator. He rides Falkor. He confronts his bullies. He reshapes reality according to his will. He becomes God. And this is the Gnostic promise. You are divine. You just need to wake up to it. You just need to name the goddess, claim your power, and reshape reality according to your imagination. Think of people like Bill Gates, just reshaping your reality according to Event 201, a mere 2 months before the virus of unknown origins appeared and everyone went hard lockstep. Anyways, the film presents this all as a happy ending. Now, if you've read the book and most people haven't, you know it doesn't end there. In Michael Ende's novel, Bastian does get corrupted by the Auron's power. He starts making wishes that reshape Fantasia to glorify himself, and every wish he makes causes him to lose a memory, to lose a piece of his true self. He becomes a tyrant, essentially, a false god who's forgotten who he really is. The novel is actually warning against the very Gnostic philosophy the film celebrates. Ende is saying, if you try to become God, if you assert your will as supreme, you will lose yourself. You will become a monster. But the film cuts that out, although there was a not-so-well-received sequel in the early 90s that draws from the second half of the novel. The film ends with Bastian victorious, empowered, flying through the sky on the luck dragon. But here, the corruption, the consequences, the warning, all gone. And that's how you program children, mate. You give them the poison without the antidote. You tell them they're divine without telling them the cost of claiming divinity. Ende, for what it's worth, hated the film. He sued to try to stop it. He said they'd gutted his story and turned it into the exact kind of thing he was warning against. And he was right. So why does all this matter? It's just a movie, right? Just a kid's fantasy from the 80 seconds. Except it's not. It's a delivery system for Gnostic, occult, New Age thought, packaged in a way that's emotionally resonant, visually stunning, and psychologically powerful. It was shown to millions of Gen X kids at exactly the right developmental stage when they're forming their understanding of reality, meaning, and purpose. And what did it teach them? The material world is meaningless and oppressive. Imagination and subjective belief create reality. You contain the divine spark within yourself. Authority figures, parents, teachers, are keeping you from gnosis. There is no objective truth, only stories. You can become God if you just believe hard enough. This is the philosophical foundation of the modern West, mate. It's why we have a culture obsessed with manifesting, with speaking your truth, with radical subjectivism and the deification of the self. Freemasonic naturalism didn't lead people into atheism, it leads them back into paganism. Because, as they keep telling us, atheism is the lack of belief in a god. It doesn't describe what the adherent actually believes and practices. But the term paganism explains it perfectly. Sensual pagan worship of the self. It's how and why institutional Christianity has collapsed and been replaced by vague spirituality, atheism, that's actually paganism, and consumerist individualism. And it's not an accident. This stuff was deliberate. All it took was appealing to selfish desire and sensual pleasure long and hard enough using 20th century psychology and propaganda developments. Whether Ende intended it or not, the film became a tool of ideological programming. And now you can see it. You can understand what was done. You can recognize the game. And maybe, just maybe, you can start asking, if this is what they were teaching us in kids' movies, what else were they teaching us? What other seemingly innocent stories were actually vehicles for ideology? Hint, it's all of them. That's the real never-ending story, mate. The battle for consciousness. The fight over who gets to define reality, your reality, the rebels or Jesus Christ. And the first step in winning that fight is recognizing that it exists. Ultimately, ideas have consequences. Symbols have power. And the people who made the NeverEnding Story created a film saturated with Gnostic theology, occult symbolism, and esoteric philosophy. And we ate it up. We loved it. We cried for Artax. We cheered for Bastian. We wished we could ride Falkor through the sky. And in the process, we absorbed a worldview that says, there is no God, only the divine within you. There is no truth, only imagination. There is no meaning except what you create. That's the nothing, mate. That's the real nothing. Not the absence of imagination, but the absence of truth, the void where objective reality should be. And the solution isn't more imagination. It's not more belief in yourself. It's not renaming the goddess and reshaping Fantasia according to your will. The solution is recognizing that there is an objective reality, an objective truth, an objective God, whether you believe in him or not. That's the story they didn't want to tell. But now you know it. This was the Frank Fox being frank about how popular culture is a vehicle for the dissemination of pagan religion to a post-Christian society with consumerist sensibilities. If you enjoy the content, please subscribe, like, and hit the notification bell to help me continue to expose the subversive worldview behind our most praised artistic achievements. Thanks, and may God bless you in the knowledge of his Son, Jesus Christ.